This is an introduction to job scoping. Here we have in front of us a template for that purpose. And we will now look into how to utilize this template. The first task is to find a solution-neutral description of the task at hand. We also call that the job to be done. Now here for this example we choose an everyday job to be done, which is pour fuel in my car. First of all, in our job scoping exercise we are going to perform a job mapping, which is written down below. So we want to first look into the job step of localizing, then prepare and confirm, then execute, and then monitor and modify. So let's look into how this is done. Now, pour fuel in my car. What would we need to localize? Well, we would like to find cheap sources for fuel, right? So that is what we want to localize. Where do we find cheap sources for fuel? Then the next step is prepare and confirm. So with regards to pouring fuel in my car and now having found the cheap sources for fuel, we definitely want to compare these locations with our usual routes of commute and then choose one. Once we have chosen one location where to find cheap sources of fuel, we want to execute. So that means we need to deviate from our usual route of commute, refuel, and then continue our route. The next step would be to monitor and modify. So what do we want to monitor? Oh, for sure. So we want to compare time, effort, and also cost. We want to compare what we expected to what we actually found and learn from this difference for next time. Now the next step is to look into our expectations towards localize. Notice here that we also want to formulate that in a solution-neutral way. So what are our expectations towards localizing cheap sources for fuel? We definitely want to minimize the time to locate these sources. The next step, we want to compare these locations for cheap fuel with our usual routes of commute and then pick one. We definitely also want to minimize the time and the effort to make our choice. For the execution, we expect to minimize any kind of unpleasant deviations from the expected time, effort, and cost. And for monitoring and modifying, we want to maximize the applicability of any learning for the next time. Of course, in our job mapping that we have done just here, these are not the only aspects that we might want to look into. So if you go out with your team and collect all different aspects of localizing, preparing, confirming, executing, monitoring, and modifying, you might find many more aspects to look into. You also might find many more expectations towards each of these steps, but for the scope of this little exercise and introduction, we are limiting ourselves to these aspects. Now, job scoping also is to look for higher purposes. So the question is, what for do we want to pour fuel in our car? Well, one evident purpose is to bring us to our working place. Another higher purpose could simply be, I have once lived that situation that my car ran out of fuel right in the middle of the motorway, and yes, we are surrounded by all these wonderful technical solutions in our life, but now these wonderful technical solutions come along with so much hassles, so much need for attention all the time. So I pour fuel in my car simply to stay away from any kind of hassle. Yeah, I have lived that once, I don't want to live that any more time. And a third possible higher purpose would be to demonstrate I am a loving parent because I bring my family on a weekend to a nice place and we spend some lovely time together. Also here, these are by far not all higher purposes, but these are 3 examples we hope you can connect to. So, when having performed such a job scoping exercise, we are far more able to analyze where there are opportunities for us to come up with a completely new solution for our original job to pour fuel in our car. If you go out and just think by yourself, oh, what could be done by refueling my car? You might not end up with many ideas. This method of job scoping is a far more consistent way to come up with a variety of different ideas at different levels, either of a higher purpose or at the level of a job step. Let's look into how this is applied and where there might also be some difficulties. First of all, there's a prerequisite, the job to be done, which here we have also called the task that we need to perform, needs to be fully understood from a customer's point of view. People and companies sometimes get that wrong. They think their job is to sell ice cream. That is not the customer's job. That is not why customers hire ice cream. That is our job, perhaps. That's how we justify our salary. So here, that's the first prerequisite. We need to clarify and fully understand the job to be done from a customer's point of view. Next is, we need to know where job scoping is helping us. So job scoping answers to the question, on which level do we want to attack the innovation challenge? In the very end, we are looking into opportunities to revolutionize the way people pour fuel in their cars. So that's what job scoping is doing for us. We understand at which level we might want to attack that challenge. Now here's some observations we have had with teams of people when they applied that tool. First of all, it is indeed difficult to understand and apply the concept of job to be done. So if you're not familiar with that, make sure you fully understand that you're fully able to facilitate a meeting of people around job to be done. Second problem is, you might not be the most experienced moderator for a problem-solving team session. It is often underestimated what kind of challenge that can present. If your team is not coming up with a superior solution, it might be there is none, or you just might not have noticed the superior solution. And after the fact, it's impossible to tell apart. So here, a good moderation makes all the difference. You can indeed make sure that people inside your company are enabled to moderate team sessions so that these teams come up with superior solutions. On the long run, you will notice there is a difference. At one or the other team session, you might not know. Perhaps the outcome was not superior because there was no opportunity to be discovered. Third difficulty is, people struggle a lot to think about problems in a solution-neutral way. What do we mean by this? Well, we are so confined by the solutions that surround us. We might think in terms of the petrol station when we think about refueling. That's thinking in terms of a solution. So once people and teams can free themselves from the current solutions, once they are able to think in a solution-neutral concept, they are far more able to come up with a completely new solution idea. Fourth difficulty that we always find very often, especially among practitioners of Lean and Six Sigma. It is indeed very difficult to to tell apart a job map and a process map. Now, intellectually, the difference is very simple to understand, but on the ground it's difficult to apply. A process map maps out how the current solution works. A job map does not need any kind of current solution. If you took the job of illuminating the room at night, we do not talk about a light bulb here. The job is illuminate the room at night. A job map doesn't think about candles, a fire lit up in the middle of the room, glowing wallpaper, whatever that is. Now, in the application, when thinking about things, when moderating teams, it is terribly difficult to tell apart a job map and a process map. Alright, so long this short introduction to the tool of job scoping. We have seen a template. We have seen it applied with an everyday example. We have not provided you with any kind of breakthrough insight, but we are sure that this tool, applied well by a team of knowledgeable people, will indeed come up with completely new, maybe revolutionary solutions where more than one company might find good sources of revenue for some years to come. And all this just out of an everyday task, which is pour fuel in my car. We also hope that this short introduction has made you understand that innovation is not for a select few. It is indeed for all. Everybody can develop the right thinking to come up with novelty, and this is where job scoping helps us in everyday life. So when there's an opportunity to apply it, just try it out, moderate a team, and all the best luck for it. Many thanks for your attention.